Hello again, and welcome to the Curse Discussions podcast. As always, I am Chucky Arlaw. With me today, we have the illustrious Lap Gong Long and the esteemed Mr. Alex Forrest.
Thank you for mispronouncing my name, Chucky. You've only known me for about, 5 years now?
Lap Gong Leong, is that better?
Yes.
Okay.
6 years. 6 years.
All right. Well, now that we've got that, that's a bit awkward. But to move on to the show's topic, so today we're going to be discussing, I guess, broadly the topic of urbanization, urban planning, as well as just like transportation, infrastructure, all that kind of stuff that goes in that basket.
Yeah, all that good shit.
Yes, exactly. All that good shit.
Rail.
Or all that bad shit.
Yeah.
I don't know. As many know, as a libertarian, I really have a profound hatred of roads. Well, that's a funny, it's a interesting, caricature or a meme or whatever. But was an argument I heard back in sort of the Ron Paul days around 2012 or something.
Uh-huh.
I heard an argument once that was from libertarians, and they would talk about how roads are kind of an avenue that the government steered the market down that it wouldn't otherwise have gone down. And they're saying that if not for government subsidized road production, cars would have been designed such that they could just drive pretty much off road. I don't know. Do you guys have any opinion on that?
I think that's hilarious, and probably not true. However, there's no questioning that the government's spending on roads and their prioritization of them did have like some consequences, which distorted what would have just been a market outcome. I think cars would have proliferated anyway, because they offered concrete advantages. But I don't know. I also think it probably wouldn't have looked quite the way it does now.
I guess it goes back to that age-old question. Has there ever been a pure market outcome free from government? And
No,
I'd say 50-50. We know that Facebook is purely a private thing, but I guess it's how everybody says Tesla really invented what Marconi invented because Marconi used all of Tesla's patents. It's a very juvenile argument used by a lot of...
Let me ask you, so you mentioned Facebook as a private thing. What do you mean exactly by that? You said Facebook is wholly a private thing.
I don't think the government would have ever invented Facebook, as a thing. I don't think if the government were to...
You don't think the government would have come up with just, a social profiling system where people just can log information about themselves and what they're up to every day?
Well, when you put it that way...
I think a government system of the internet would have been much more of a social credit system, like the one they're using in China.
Right.
I don't think that Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Google would ever have been invented by DARPA. I mean, that would just be crazy. The roots of it, maybe, it's like, was Bitcoin invented by the government? Is Satoshi Nakamoto really
I mean, Satoshi Nakamoto is a Fed, and Bitcoin is a massive honeypot. If you invest in Bitcoin, that's basically just a way to let the government know that you're a pedophile.
This conversation's turning out for the worse.
Well, what's this, guys? Hello.
All right. Well, let's get back to the question at hand of urban planning. Classical architecture, yay or nay?
That's
an you tackle this one, Alex.
Question. Yeah, that's an architecture question, not an urban planning question. I can't imagine how sterile a city that was entirely classical architecture would be. That'd be boring and shitty as fuck. But
why do you hate Venice? Why do you hate Zurich? Why do you hate... I'm sorry, never mind.
Yeah, I was gonna say none of those cities are classical. Like, damn, you heard of the Renaissance, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, classical architecture. It's iconic. It's good for signature buildings, I guess. But even then, you want a little bit of variety, I think.
Oh, I'd love...
So would you say you're a big brain centrist on this question?
Well,
dude,
I'm asking this
right.
question because I really want Penn Station to be rebuilt. I really want Penn Station to be rebuilt. I think railway stations, if there's anything I don't like about modern society, it's just goddamn Hudson Yards in New York City. There was the genius idea to build a whole glass platform all over the old railroads.
Why is that a
So they
genius
can
idea?
cook them?
It's not a genius idea. It's just
What do you mean? You just said it was.
okay. I was being sarcastic, but it
Yeah.
was.
Oh, okay.
It was. I just never got the idea of Liverpool One or huge shopping centers or whatever the hell that was. But God, wouldn't it be great to rebuild a beautiful neoclassical building, reconstruct all of it, just like they did to the old churches of Dresden?
I think it'd be pretty cool. I also don't think it would be a very viable, it wouldn't scale really. Like there's only one Penn Station. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And rebuilding that, yeah, I think totally as an architectural marvel, as a gem of private industry, yeah, let's get to it. But you're not gonna have a Penn Station in every city because every city
Nope.
is New York. You know?
So when you say every city isn't New York, are you saying that it's not the cities aren't big enough or don't have enough economic activity to justify that kind of expenditure?
No, because there are plenty of peers of New York, and there are plenty of cities that are larger than New York. But that Penn Station was like a key part of New York's history, I think, and sort of like a trophy of the Gilded Age. And it's a shame that that style of architecture just had such a backlash, and they tore it all down. It'd be nice to have it back.
Okay, but but when you say though that so every city isn't New York, I guess you just mean that it would be kind of dumb if we just kind of had that same sort of architecture everywhere, and that would diminish
No,
the.
yeah, I do think
Yes,
you're
that'd be like
I
incredibly
just
depressing. It would
what
take
I
all
just
the fun out of it.
really like out of society is a bit of civic pride and a bit of civic beauty again. I mean, you look at St. George's Hall in Liverpool, or you look at, I guess it's all about, if you look at Charleston or Savannah, even though those towns are stagnant as hell and full of all these goddamn hair dyeing assholes.
They have civic pride.
Yeah, they have
Nope,
civic
don't.
pride. The layout is beautiful. The houses are great. The heat is unbearable, but if you're a good artistic student
Wait,
or
where are
you
we talking about again?
Savannah,
Everyone
Georgia.
about hot cities is a fucking pussy.
What?
No, give me 95 and humid every day of the week, please.
Where are
That's
you
the
from,
weather.
Alex?
Massachusetts.
Oh, okay. Well, that doesn't really
City
explain
in
that.
Massachusetts.
We get 95 and humid for like at least a few weeks in the summer, and that is hands down the best time of year. Also, whenever I go on vacation, I try to find places with similar weather.
Ah.
Ferry
Like Japan.
across the Mersey. Sorry.
No random singing lap. Let's avoid
I
that.
guess what I would really like to do. I feel like this conversation is going nowhere. What I guess my final point is this: a good
We
city,
still have another 50 minutes, so let's
good-
I
hope
was
this
gonna
is
say
not your final point.
final point. Damn.
a good city is like a good family. It needs to work contiguously, but it also should have a bit of individuality in each district.
That's.
And
I was really worried about this metaphor, but that's actually pretty solid. I like it.
just because you build a whole, just because you reclaim some land and build a nice Zaha Hadid structure and call it the West Kowloon Cultural District, does not make it the West Kowloon Cultural District. It would be far more organic to just fund artists
Yeah.
and give them cheap space, which then creates the cultural legacy.
I
Well,
dig it. Although I
Just
will say
because
that
you
cheap
annoy
space is a
hot.
thing to
What were you
compliment
saying,
Cal-
Alex?
I was saying I dig the idea, but just that cheap space is a bit of a hard thing to find in West Kowloon.
Oh, yeah.
No. The whole idea of West Kowloon is just, I mean, West Kowloon is basically reclaimed land, and
Right.
I don't even really want to think about how Hong Kong designs housing anymore. It's
What
just.
do you mean?
Have you ever seen an average Hong Kong apartment?
No. Is that like those cages they live in or whatever?
Pretty
Not.
much, yeah. Right? I
It's
mean,
not really
I could be
that
mistaken
bad.
about.
It's not really that bad, but
Okay.
getting there.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I was talking to Andriago about this a while back, and we were talking
Uh,
about how in a lot of the highly urbanized East Asian areas, like the example we were talking about was Japan.
mm,
Um, even though they have a relatively high standard of living,
yeah.
right? Like they live in these they live in these little poverty boxes, basically.
Are you shitting me?
What?
The average Japanese house is larger than the average UK house.
Sure, but I'm talking about like in the apartments. I don't know.
Yeah, but the people who live in apartments in Japan are kind of like the same people who live in apartments in America. They're not exactly winning. Although they are paying a lot less for their apartments, and they're usually in much cleaner neighborhoods and shit like that. So like they're kind of winning.
I guess
Um,
I'm BTFO then.
What I do like about Japan is that real estate prices are low and living is sort of cheap if you know how to pair yourself. And
oh, hell yeah.
sushi is cheap and good. You don't have to pay
The amount of
$100
quality that you
for
get for what you pay for in Japan is like truly earth shattering. I don't know how to explain this to people who haven't been there, but
Boston fried chicken. That shit
Wait, what are we talking about?
Lawson fried chicken. They need to.
it is stupid good, dude. You can get I when I go on vacation in Japan, I eat more than 50% of my meals are Lawson. Um and I don't regret a fucking minute of it. It's so fucking good.
Even the shopping malls have good restaurants. That is.
Yeah,
The
no,
the
it's
upside is that there's a lot of expensive shit that you'll never get to have, and
well, I mean,
Itadakimasu.
there's a lot of expensive shit that
I'm
get to have
sorry,
it.
that's just the autism doing it again.
It happens, man. It happens. We'll together.
That's kind of the point of this podcast is a bunch of young men coming together to treat their
Okay.
autism. It's a therapeutic podcasting. Anyway,
Alex, as an urban planning student, I assume that. What's your favorite city?
My favorite city it has to be Tokyo. I don't know what I could recommend about that. Like my personal favorite is probably Boston, but I don't know. Boston has a lot of problems. I'm unfairly fond of it because I'm from there. Like I couldn't with a straight face say that Boston is a better city than Tokyo, even if I would rather live in Boston. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like my affection for Boston is kind of highly aspirational. It's like a parent who's really fond of like their only child, even though their child is like 5 and doesn't know not to eat glue yet. You know what I mean? Like they love what that child might be eventually.
Yeah.
Because it's there.
I know a guy who's connected to a guy who who's making up Echo Atlantic, which is basically a bunch of reclaimed land in the port of Lagos and
Oh, I've
Nigeria.
heard that project. Yeah.
It's going to be really great at this point. They just need to make sure it's high-end residential areas, so Africa finally has a decent city to have. Otherwise, everybody might as well just go back to Joburg.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the ones that they took from South Africa are really just not doing the trick, huh?
It's just Africa is weird when it comes to cities. All of them are quite bad. I don't like them at all.
Yeah, I don't know really much about African
The
cities.
peaceful ones like Gaborone are just boring, and the dangerous ones will kill you. I mean, very rarely do you have like a real metropolis like Johannesburg or Cape Town. Cape Town's just basically a vacation destination at this point.
All things considered, that's really quite an accomplishment compared to what it could be.
yeah, but it won't be
I
that
think
way for
also,
long. Haven't you guys seen Lauren Southern's documentary?
what now?
I
No,
did not pay
are you
attention
kidding?
to that sexy asshole.
Lauren Southern is like pretty hot. Would bang. Her sister is arguably hotter, but I don't know. I have my
Southern
moment
has a
where
sister.
I've really decided. Yes, what the fuck? Have you not seen Southern Sister?
Isn't it a sin to
Are you
like say Lauren Southern's hot or something?
Holy shit!
Wait a minute. You
Holy
Are
crap! Somebody just animate the fuck out of reality. I'm
Yeah,
seeing
look up-
pictures right
look up-
now.
dude,
Jesus
Lauren
Christ!
Southern's sister is disgustingly hot.
Oh,
Check it out.
you're talking about Jess Southern?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jess Southern.
Yeah,
My
I've seen the photo shoot.
hell.
You've seen the famous one, but have you seen her others? Like, damn,
No.
her Instagram's great.
This person looks like she's been drawn on somebody's iron board.
How much for premium, Queen?
I don't know. White people are weird. White women are even weirder. They age so rapidly, and okay, now that's not safe or anything.
Hey,
So-
it's okay. This is a safe zone.
I mean, I kind of alerted my Twitter followers to this, and if any of them are listening, they'll
No,
what-
this is not a live stream. We're recording this. It's gonna be tomorrow. We're posting this.
Yeah, this is for a podcast. Also, Lap, what's your Twitter?
Lap Gong Liang.
All right, give me a sec.
God damn.
Okay.
What?
Yes, Southern.
Yeah, no, she's something else, huh?
All right. So this is something an angle I wanted to see if you guys had an opinion about. So, do you guys know anything about Elaine? What's up?
I just followed you. Go on.
Do you guys know anything about Elaine Chao, her policies as transportation
Oh.
secretary?
Dude, okay, now this is.
I don't.
I was gonna say I don't either. I'm sorry. Just a
Oh,
you know.
that was
cliche-
really anticlimactic.
at
You really
Mary-
built that up. Like,
Mike-
okay, let's get going. I don't know.
Wait. Wait. Hear me out though. I was just gonna say that I find it very difficult to care much about, I guess, what high level, lifetime bureaucrats have to say about this, because like they've had the capacity to shape transportation for a long time, and the results are just not very impressive. So
Sure.
I tune it out.
For
I
sure.
remember like the last time I cared about a American like public official who had a position on transit was who was the fucking guy under Obama? I think term one, Ray, what's his name?
Roy LaHood. Ray LaHood.
Ray LaHood, was it? Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, okay.
Republican.
I saw Ray LaHood at a conference in DC. And that was about it. He didn't have anything interesting to say.
But what made you care about him in the first place?
Because I was younger and more naive.
Oh, I see.
And I thought that would be sort of like the place to go for, I don't know. And I mean, Obama had done his whole high-speed rail shtick. I don't know.
Didn't give any goddamn money to it.
That is a perennial thing, right? That we talk about in American politics, of course, right? It's
we love just floating it and then doing fuck all.
yes.
Funny story. So Western Massachusetts, the organization that I work for now helped to secure something to the tune of like $70 million of federal high-speed rail money.
What?
To renovate an Amtrak line.
Oh.
Or sorry, renovate a freight rail line so that Amtrak could run over it. And so this is before I started working there, but at the time they were going through the motions of like securing the funding, and so they said, "Oh yeah, it's for a high-speed rail line. What's high speed? 79 miles an hour." Like, my God, they're literally sabotaging the very fucking concept. I'm so mad.
For the uninitiated, what actually is high-speed rail? Like,
About the typical threshold is 125 miles an hour.
okay.
Lame.
Yeah, and that's the threshold. That's like that was what we hit in 1964 in Japan. So the modern standard is close to 186 miles an hour.
So, if you could kind of fill me in on what would be because okay, so as a libertarian, I'm generally skeptical of large government investments. In fact, I would say I'm extremely skeptical. So if you could make
right
the
to be
case real quick, why should we have high-speed rail in the U.S. or why should
Actually,
the government
I
spend
don't
money
think
on
we
it?
should.
The government shouldn't do
Oh,
what
okay.
fucking Texas is doing. Are you kidding me, dude? Texas just has a turnkey project. They contracted JR Central, or sorry, I should say JR Central contacted them and said, hey, we understand that you're maybe interested in high-speed rail between Houston and Dallas. we'll do the whole thing for you. You don't need to spend any government money on it, just as long as we get to operate it and keep the profit.
Okay.
And so that's going on ahead. It will probably be done before California's. It will certainly be more successful. And assuming that JR Central
have to be in Texas, though.
What's up?
Fucking Texas.
Why do you hate Texas, dude?
I just feel like it could be in a much better place, like,
What, like California? Don't make me laugh.
No, New England. New England
Agreed.
needs it.
New England needs it, but holy shit, dude. Have you met New England property owners in like fucking Connecticut? Like every part of New England where it would be most useful, we would need some degree of like mild Stalinism to actually get that to go through.
You talking about
and
in terms of
I
eminent domain?
don't really want to alienate all that tax revenue, but
Right. It's
I just want to get out of the goddamn Acela zone. Acela isn't even great. I was on the Acela.
It's trash. It's very expensive, overpriced trash too.
You
I don't
know-
know how they get away with it, except
You know
that
what
Americans.
you know what I dream of when I create a high-speed rail in my rail map in my mind.
Okay.
Here's what I want. I want all of New England with New York as the starting point and Canada as the end point. I want it to go to Boston. I want it to go to Portland. I want it to go to I want it to go to Western New York. Not only that, I want it to go all the way to Toronto.
Lap, follow me back on Twitter, and I'll retweet the map of my sketch for high speed rail corridors in New England.
Oh, good. Never mind. What's your account again?
380KMH.
380KNH. What the hell does it?
KMH.
KMH.
Yeah.
If I can bring this back for a second.
Shoot.
So we were talking about, you mentioned like an initiative that's now, I guess, underway in Texas for high-speed rail, and you said
Yes.
that basically is just like allowing the private sector to do it. So if not,
Well, hold on. I want to be very clear about one thing. It's about allowing a particular company to do it, not the private sector as some like amorphous general. It's a particular company with demonstrated competence at operating high-speed rail, which is offered to come in and build this.
okay.
Just letting the market unquotes do it would probably be an absolute clusterfuck.
Ooh, I don't know if I like that. That sounds cronyist.
Well, yeah, it does sound.
Call it what you want, man.
But having a consortium, as in the example of
England?
Singapore,
Yeah, have you seen
Kuala Lumpur, is not great.
Alex Forrest makes the trains run on time.
Alex Forrest, what the hell is the Collegian? Oh, finally found it. Mapping every railway in New York.
Oh, no. You're going through much more recent tweets. I'll retweet the one that I'm talking about.
Autistic.
Yeah, you're looking through my old college pictures, dude.
College is gay.
All right, well, let me just...
RT.
Is that your girlfriend?
All right, hang on.
What? Years ago, yeah.
Years ago or a year ago?
If I could just...
Years ago. Like, 9 years ago.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to cut off this conversation.
Yeah. I think I am going to have to cut off this conversation. Okay, so what I wanted to ask is that, okay, so what would you say then is if it doesn't actually require like a massive infusion of government spending to get something like that done, and you can just contract it out to the private sector, or not to a particular company, what would you say is the main political obstacle that's stopping the development of high-speed rail?
I'm going to answer the question a little obliquely, but I hope you'll be satisfied. The problem is that trying to start with high-speed rail is like trying to build a house roof first. The real moneymakers in privatized rail in countries where this works, like Japan, are the commuter railways, the suburban railways. Those are the fucking bank makers, all right? They are so goddamn rich. They carry far more people. There is a legit market there. None of this crony stuff that you're insinuating earlier. And if we're interested in making better railways in America, we should start with making the railways which overwhelmingly the most Americans actually use today better. we should make sure our subway stations are clean, that our trains are comfortable, that everything is well lit, that it's safe, that the fares actually reflect the cost of providing service, all these things. Once we start doing that, once we can sort of, get that ship back, to fucking seaworthiness. What a terrible metaphor. Once we can fucking fix up subways and commuter railways in America today, then we can talk about connecting cities which support those with high-speed rail.
Okay. So you talked about making first better the transportation that most Americans actually use. For the uninitiated, again, how does the statistical breakdown look on that? Like, what kinds of rail systems are most widely used by Americans?
Give me a sec. I will pull up exact figures. Hang on.
Goddamn computer.
Are we
echo.
talking mostly about subways or like in urban environments?
It is subways first by a substantial margin. But just a moment, man.
Okay. Because I do know that almost everyone that I know who lives in New York City just constantly complains about the quality of the subways.
The New York City subway is one of the most miserable experiences in the world. And
that's only
because
because
so much better.
That's only because people have not been putting the money that they should have put in. And even then,
sounds statist to
the
me.
subway. Well, if you're going to have a subway, you have to fund it. You can't have Scandinavian public services.
Chucky, I got to say, I don't think there's anything really statist about charging a fare that reflects the cost of providing service.
Oh, sure.
I think that right, and that this is a substantial problem for the New York City subway is that they don't do that. That they charge a flat rate no matter how far you're going, and even with that flat rate, it is nowhere near the cost of the trip.
So is the idea for that to like subsidize lower income riders?
Oh, they could do it a lot better through.
Yeah, if you want to subsidize lower income riders, you need to make an exception connected to fucking Social Security or something, but have a program which, they have to apply for that subsidy. Don't do it across the board for every fucking passenger. That's stupid.
Okay. That sounds like a smart opinion.
Hong Kong has a very good metro system, but I don't like it. It just feels kind of
it's very good, but you don't like it?
Yeah. What do you mean? Please elaborate.
Just aesthetically, it's not as beautiful. Aesthetically, it just looks like a hotel lobby.
What would you say is an example of a aesthetically beautiful transportation system?
The L train and the Paris Metro.
Okay. Do you have any thoughts on that, Alex? Top 5 anime aesthetic railways.
All right. The Oraku Railway is the most trains in the world.
Hey, Lap, we're gonna need you to not randomly start humming.
God fucking, what is with the goddamn echo?
Oh, is there an echo?
But here, by the way, I just pulled up my statistics. Took me a while. So in the USA, subways carry 3.9 billion people a year. Commuter rail, 530 million. Streetcars and light rail, 490 million. And then Amtrak, 31 million. So you can see, we're talking orders of magnitude more ridership on subways than on commuter rail, and then another order of magnitude more on commuter rail than on Amtrak.
Okay, so if we were looking to reform, we would probably
if you want to reform, you start your reforms with those subways.
Okay.
You start, you have to, clean them, but then keep them clean. Figure out how to run a maintenance schedule which doesn't involve shutting down service. Like, I don't know, the Oraku Railway in Japan, the one that I am most familiar with, which I've spent the most time with, they just this year wrapped up something like a 30-year-long project to quadruple track their main line through the city of Tokyo. And so we're talking about substantial infrastructure investment to a route which is used by like 2 million people every single day in the middle of the world's largest city. And they accomplished all of this without ever interrupting service. There was no, oh, we're closing the line on Saturdays or some shit like that. They did all their construction while trains were running. And, now they're able to open it, rightfully proud of themselves, and just expand the service frequency, without fucking people over on the way there.
So is that because is the reason that they have such superior rail service because their railways are like folded 1,000 times or something?
You joke, but I did see an interesting bit about the grade of steel which is used for Japanese rails and Japanese train wheels, to the point that American freight railways import them. If you're Warren Buffett and you're renovating the main line on Burlington Northern Santa Fe, you're going to buy your tracks from Osaka.
And that's pretty interesting. Why is it that they have such high quality, steel?
Because they have a substantial domestic market for it, so it is economically viable to manufacture it locally.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't get it. Japan has all of this great stuff, but their economy is still crap.
Oh my God, you can't seriously believe that. Are you joking?
Well, no. It's just clear that even though the Japanese economy has all of these intellectual assets, all of this excellent manufacturing, all of these, they're not technically. I mean, they're not exactly China.
Yeah.
They're not where they used to be.
I know which one I would rather live in.
Yes, I would rather live in Japan, but
Can you elaborate on that, Lap? What do you mean by they're not exactly China?
Abenomics has not worked. Abenomics, everything from structural reform to central bank printing. Okay, let's say this.
Okay.
Abenomics arrows were very well. When he talked about Abenomics, he implied that there was going to be an equal part of structural reforms, and I forgot what the second arrow was, and then some sort of printing money. All he did was print money and not actually enact any structural reforms at all.
That sounds about right to me, yeah. But I don't really know in great detail what his program was about. I know printing money.
The lost decade is turning out. The lost decade is going to start turning 30 in a while. I mean, GDP growth has started to grow very well.
Yeah, by the way, that over the course of 30 years of GDP flatlining, the quality of life in Japan accelerated tremendously. Like, they're eating way better food, they're eating more diverse diets, they're living more comfortably.
I get it, but that's only because Japan is literally shrinking.
I know, isn't it awesome?
No, it's not awesome. Japan should have 100 million people.
Yeah, they'll get back to that eventually. Give them time. I mean, I think of it as like an isostatic rebound, okay? When Tokyo was exploding in size in the latter half of the 20th century, after it was done, like, exploding literally, it basically grew by importing most of Japan's rural population, right? And now the rural population of Japan is still sort of like still just wrapping up its emptying out phase. But you're beginning to see the return as people in Tokyo who have now, made their money and established their lives and have the capacity to work from kind of anywhere are beginning to move back out into the countryside. And meanwhile, out in the countryside where the population decline is, most acutely felt, because, if you look at Tokyo, Tokyo is still growing. It's literally still getting bigger every year.
I've only been to Tokyo a lot. I've only been to Osaka once.
Yeah.
And I've never been to Hokkaido, but the city I really want to go to is Fukuoka.
I've been to Fukuoka, and I've been to Sapporo, and I've been to Osaka and Tokyo.
I keep hearing great things about Fukuoka, how it's like the youngest city, the startup city, the city of the future. I mean, I just really want to go to Fukuoka for some reason.
I think you should check it out, but I should also caution you that is like absolutely 100% a marketing fucking scam. The city of the future is Tokyo. Like, otherwise, Fukuoka would be the largest in Japan.
So what's the point of Fukuoka then?
The point of Fukuoka is probably that it is. I'm sure it is actually growing, and I wouldn't be surprised to find that it has like a high startup rate and like a young population. But it's still busy playing catch up, and it's not really sustaining a lot of economic activity for the rest of the island of Kyushu, whereas Tokyo is busy creating enough economic activity to sustain the entire rest of Japan. It's, you know,
What do you think is the second city of Japan? Is it Yokohama or Osaka?
I think it's Osaka.
God damn it. Okay, fine.
And why? Can you elaborate on that?
Because Yokohama would be nothing without Tokyo, whereas Osaka is the center of its own sort of metropolitan region.
Kansai.
Like Tokyo ties in cities like Yokohama, Saitama, and Chiba, the same way that Osaka ties in larger. Well, actually, I don't know if they are larger, but other large cities like Kyoto, Kobe.
Oh, God, I hate talking about you. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, there is one answer here. Where do you like to get sushi?
To be honest, I don't really get a lot of sushi when I'm in Japan. When I'm in Japan, I get curry, I get onigiri, I get ramen, I get fried meat.
Oh, okay, why don't you? That's such a fucking student diet. You might as well just go to Kakuten and say, "Oh, accept me, man. I am so Japanese."
Uh,
Don't look at me. I eat fried chicken wings from the Robataya. I'm such a student. I study engineering at TIT.
What's that copy paste like Ken-san or whatever?
right, yes. Oh my God, legendary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I think it might have been eclipsed in status by the Great Response Rawhide Kobayashi.
Oh my
I
God,
know
that
it's
is a
Rawhide
billion times better.
Kobayashi.
Yes, but the thing is, that would be nothing without the original Ken-san thing. Could think of it as a Tokyo and Yokohama relationship.
Okay. Yeah.
What the fuck is Rawhide Kobayashi? This seems like this
Oh,
seems like a
you
meme.
should. I'm surprised you don't know it, but yeah, you'll see it soon. Don't worry.
It's
Howdy, my name is Raw. Okay, fine. That guy is not real. That guy is some California fuckhead who just invented himself like that to make a meme, and he succeeded.
okay.
Yeehaw!
Well, I'm glad we've established that. So, this is kind of to shift in topics a little bit here. Um, I've heard an argument that with the rise of ride sharing, insurgent kind of markets like Uber and Lyft, that might be to some degree at least displacing some kinds of like urban railway transportation. Is that totally like retarded, or is there anything to that? Do you
I
think?
don't think it's retarded at all. Let me give you an anecdote and no empirical evidence at all,
Okay.
because here's a lap anecdote. In New York City, ride sharing is horrible. It's not like in Boston. It's not like in other cities where it's easy and nice. Ride sharing is only good if you pay up. But even then, it is so much better than a taxi because I don't have to tell them the cross number or the cross street cross section. I could just shut up. I can be in the car, talk to ladies. I could just be
Damn, Lap
a
is a
really.
pimp.
I can just be myself and take a long nap if I want to. And if I pay up for Uber X, I could change the address. I can input whatever I want. I mean,
You can make him drive around all day.
Thank you for
it's an
sales,
expensive
however, your work
luxury, but it's a worthy expensive luxury. Fuck public transportation. Ride sharing is everybody's limo driver.
Ride
And
sharing is public transportation, dumbass.
okay, then it's costly ride. Okay, fine,
Yes,
fine.
no, it's premium public transportation. It's very nice. I use rideshare more sort of like for getting drunk at night. I occasionally use it to go to work. Um, but
Do you do sidecar or
no, I do Uber.
God, what the hell has happened to sidecar?
I don't know, dude.
I mean, that is just
I don't even know
sad.
who they are.
I don't think I've ever even heard of that. What is
I've
Sidecar?
definitely heard of them, but I don't remember who the fuck they
I
are.
mean, I'm like a rural bumpkin broadcasting from an undisclosed location, so you guys are gonna have to fill me in here.
Okay.
Are you here to tell
Although,
us
actually,
about
so
the end
wait,
of
no,
the world?
let me cut in here because I need to give my anecdote about Uber.
Go ahead.
Although, sorry, this isn't an anecdote. This is not empirical data either. So I guess it's an anecdote in that it's a study that I read, which concerns exactly what Uber is taking rides away from. And this concerns Uber, or it concerns mode share for accessing Boston's Logan International Airport. Ridership on the subway and on the Boston has a bus which goes to the airport as well, has remained pretty much constant. Hasn't gone up, hasn't gone down. Ridership on Uber to the airport has exploded. It is now, the most dominant way of people getting to the airport. What has absolutely collapsed is people taking their own cars and parking in long term, or having their friends or parents or whatever drop them off at the airport. That is going out the fucking window. Nobody wants to do that anymore. So this is an isolated example. Obviously, I think it's not unrealistic to expect that Uber would have like sharking effects on conventional public transit in other markets. But just that, I don't know. It's amazing to me the extent to which people just sort of buy these stories at face value. They hear them in the media. They spend half their time talking about why the media is unreliable, but they hear one thing and they're like, "Oh, that sounds about right."
I feel personally attacked by this relatable content.
Taxi. God damn fucking. I don't know. I don't want to say the P word. I
What are you talking about, Lev?
just don't like it when plebes do all this.
I thought it was a
Bullshit.
different P word.
All this bullshit around the aristocracy of labor and all that crap. Oh, I needs my job. I'm not going to be that insensitive and say learn to code like other neoliberals. What I do want to say is that the future is here and government will not help you.
Yeah.
So we might as well just replace Social Security with basic income, even if it is slightly more expensive in tax rates. Okay.
Well,
See?
that's an interesting idea. I mean, this is veering off topic a little bit, but what do you guys think about the kind of impending, the idea at least of an impending crisis of employment where jobs become automated sometime in the next century, and basically we just have tons of people that are basically just useless?
My
That
psychiatrist used
probably
to
isn't
work for
going to
the
happen.
finger
You
clinic,
say that's probably not going to happen?
and he
That's my
said,
bias.
he said that his proudest achievement, or his most prescient work, was writing about automation in the Menninger Clinic in 1975, and it was just really. He told me it was a problem my generation will have to grapple with. And what and I think about automation is that yes, we have to accept it because that's how progress is. I think libertarians have always historically underestimated how much they win and overestimated their political worth. Libertarians Libertarian ideas we may not have created the political and societal uh, results that we wanted, but we created
Well,
the
wait.
end.
I thought we were talking about automation here.
And the end game, and automation ties into that as well as all this
Yeah,
stuff.
see automation is the coming thing, and it is the way that libertarians are going to take over the world. Kind of the same way that
No, no, no,
Manchester,
no. Listen to me.
England.
Listen to me. Listen to me.
No,
Libertarians, we have helped create a world that is advancing so rapidly
A
in
society, perhaps.
not in the physical sense,
we
but in
live
the
in a society.
Thank you.
in technological sense, where no matter what government or society or businesses or even individuals do, they cannot stop the arc towards automation. They cannot stop progress.
Yeah.
And even if the government were to expand into New Deal 3.0 and social democratic parties take over the world, that's not going to stop the charge of what's happening today.
Well,
What is happening is that capitalism does no longer needs capital. Capitalism no longer needs markets to work.
I don't know about that. What exactly do you
Yeah,
mean?
I'd
Capitalism
repudiate
no
some
longer needs
here.
rules to work. It is finally reaching a level of some sort of pseudo self-regulation. Now, Gene Tirole might be right. Self-regulation is self-serving, but he's wrong to think that the state will somehow make a comeback and and structurally reform ourselves to have houses and all that crap. It's. I am heartened by the fact that automation has helped. That we libertarians are approaching a world where we will be needed more than ever before.
Well, regardless of libertarians' exact place in all this mess, let me bring it back to Alex and ask you for a second. So you said that you're very skeptical of this narrative of technological unemployment in the long term. Can you tell me why?
Yes, just because we've been so spectacularly wrong about these kinds of things in the past. I'm thinking about in the mid 19th century. There's a lot of excitement, about the early industrial revolution. Cities like Manchester in England, and it was seen, these titanic mills with immense economy of scale and tremendous output, unprecedented in the world at the time. They were absolutely going to be the way of the future. A city like Manchester was, the way forward, whereas those old cluttered cities like London, which, can't even organize themselves around a single industry, but are instead busy occupying themselves with a million different things at a time, those are obviously confused and going the way of the dinosaur. And, well, surprise, other way around. Um, the fact that, all that investment into those very, very efficient mills in Manchester just meant that the entire city sort of became obsolete at around the same time. Whereas cities that made sort of smaller bets and piecemeal investments, they actually sort of stayed viable.
What city other than London has stayed viable in the UK?
In the UK, none, just London. Birmingham for a while. I don't know how Birmingham is doing nowadays. Yeah, they were doing okay up until like maybe the 70s. But yeah, not really
Well,
anymore.
let me say
Uh,
though, I think that although you can talk about historical examples, and I think that that's fair, right? I mean, another good example of this is of the a complementary role of technology and where it didn't decrease employment substantially was with the ATMs, right? Everyone was thinking that bank tellers would become obsolete, but I think they actually became more employed, and that's something the American
right,
Enterprise Institute, I think,
right.
wrote about. Um, but the other thing
I
is,
remember vaguely some statistic about there being more sailboats nowadays than there were back in the age of sail. Now that it's become kind of just like a novelty thing for rich people and pleasure seekers,
sure,
it's actually proliferated rather than going extinct because of steam power.
but we have to ask ourselves though.
Yeah,
It seems like there's a chance at least that we could be dealing with something fundamentally different when we're talking about like AI, right? Because if there's something that really can do everything a human can do, right, and can just be like owned, right? Like and it not only can do everything a human can do everything a human can do like better than a human, right? In most of these cases where we're dealing with, oh, people didn't actually become unemployed, what happened was they
okay, so hold
found.
on. Can I just pose very briefly like a physics issue with this? Okay.
Sure.
So one of the many definitions of AI is sort of a computer that can program itself better than like people can program it, or something like that, like a robot which can manufacture its own upgrades and improvements and things like that, right? And as a definition, it's a good concept to like hold on to. I can visualize that clearly as like being a threshold, but it also sounds a bit suspiciously like a perpetual motion machine. Like
Um,
we're going to build this machine, and once we finish it, it'll be hands off. It'll just literally take care of itself for the rest of time.
well, a
Because
perpetual motion machine, though, it would straightforwardly, violate the laws of physics, right? Because it needs, I mean, you need to get energy from somewhere, but there's no obvious way in which like AI could not exist.
right, except what I'm saying is that it would constantly need inputs of human
Resources.
effort, human intelligence.
Why do you say that?
I mean, why do I say that? just because the energy that it would expend to gather the resources itself would probably not be offset by the amount of energy you could get from those resources. Um,
I don't know.
I
I
don't know.
mean, in the case of the human brain, that's not the
Yes.
case. So why could there not be something else that works, I guess, in a similar way to the human brain, except better?
Right. So, okay.
Or not
I
even
guess
actually, I shouldn't say works in a similar way to the human brain because AI probably would not work in a similar way to a human brain. But
right. Well, and also, I mean, there's that funny thing about the human brain is that I notice it distinctly doesn't work very well when it's not a part of a human body. Um, and I feel like thinking of the brain as just like this hard drive which is installed in your head is not actually a very productive metaphor,
yes,
and leads to bad assumptions. Um,
that's a good point.
so the idea that we might have like an intelligent robot, perhaps, like if we sort of did it from the ground up, so that we'd basically be, I mean, you'd basically be knocking someone up. Like that's I don't
So,
know.
it sounds like you're just basically skeptical of AI, period. But like, could you grant?
I'm skeptical of it, period, because I've seen past applications of automation and seen just how far they fall short of their sort of marketing potential. Like, the big hubbub about driverless cars, right? Well, of course, we've had driverless trains for a lot longer, and railways are a much more controlled environment, which makes it easier to automate them, which is why we've had them for longer. Um, and yet, despite having it's 2018 now, we've had nearly 50 years of work in autonomous self-driving trains, and they still frequently need a lot of human involvement just to keep functioning. And I don't just mean human involvement like maintenance work. I'm talking about like it's not uncommon to have a person on board as like an emergency just in case sort of thing,
Okay,
and to
sure.
handle some aspects of its
But
operation.
we there.
And that's a controlled guideway with fully timetabled operations. Let alone a much more chaotic environment, which say a robotic dog would have to navigate.
But
You know,
self-driving cars do already exist, and they seem to work. Although, I mean, obvi-
except for them like not recognizing a stopped fire truck or like running over a pedestrian or speeding. Um, like they work, just not as advertised. They don't do anything near what they're advertised to do.
okay, sure, but again, like this is very new technology, and if you could compare this to like decades ago, we wouldn't even be able to talk about this stuff. So it certainly seems as that uh, this sort of technology is progressing pretty quickly
Progressing, yeah. I just wonder sort of to what conclusion. Like what would a fully matured technology down these lines
to
look
a
like?
Nick Land conclusion.
I don't know. So back in the early 20th century, with sort of the explosion of air travel, and a lot of airplanes at the time were small, like two-seater kind of deals. There was a particular blend of like suburban wishful thinking, which thought that in the future we would all fly auto gyros or whatever
Uh-huh.
to get to our office, and there have even been built a couple of these airstrip suburbs, where like every house backs onto this one communally shared runway. Um, and obviously that didn't go anywhere. And it's not as if air travel didn't, you know, develop fantastically beyond what it was in the 1920s. It just didn't develop in that direction. That just happened not to be a practical or economically viable direction for air travel to develop in, even with all of the breakthroughs in computers, in materials, in all that. Um, and so it's kind of just one of those things. I feel like what people would like to get out of this isn't what they will get out of it, even though what they will eventually get out of it will be pretty awesome and in retrospect indispensable.
So you're saying that AI, you're skeptical that it will exist as it's currently envisioned, but
Envision,
there would be something
right? But
else. There will
yes,
likely be
we will
something
we
else.
will milk tremendous technological benefits from the study of AI. What we will not get though are Terminator scenarios. We will not get like
Well, no
a
one's
the
talking about
flip
that.
scenario. Like I don't know, man. I've talked to some like AI paranoiacs. I think they're funny. Um,
I mean, usually the like, oh, I guess, are you talking about unfriendly AI?
Right. The idea that we should be shitting our pants at AI, that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, I read Smart Opinions Man's blog. Uh,
I don't know who the fuck that is.
Scott Alexander. That's
Oh, right. Yes. Okay. Yes. Yes.
and he said, no, I don't know. From what I understand, like, and this is mostly coming from him. I like to suck his dick quite a bit. Um, the idea is that it's not that we need to be super worried about AI, but just that unfriendly AI is a possibility, and that it's worth investing resources in trying to prevent it as AI further develops. Like, would you
He,
say
I
that?
trust, has addressed the concern that if it's really AI, our investments would be fairly powerless to stop it. Dishel, like, has he
Well, yeah.
Because I
The
think
idea is
he's
though
covered the
that
possibility
the
of
idea
this?
is that it would be, you know, the investment he's talking about would be investment in terms of figuring out ways to like keep it in like a quote box, and also
Okay, right.
thinking about.
Like, if it's smarter than us, couldn't it figure out ways to get out of the box?
Well, that's the thing, right? Is that so? There are different ways that an AI might be able to do it, but so if you just have an AI like on a computer that's not attached to the internet or anything, right? There's little it can actually do, right? It can't like make the computer, it can't really do anything, right? But if it was connected to the internet, then that opens up infinite possibilities it could use to kill us. Um, but basically, the idea is that a lot of the resources would be used to develop ways to align the AI's value system, the AI's incentives with our own, with human values, so that it doesn't ever decide to kill us in the first place, that it doesn't become unfriendly.
Okay, I'm sorry. You will at least forgive me for saying this sounds suspiciously like um, we're we're sure that demon summoning is right around the corner, but we need to make sure that we invest properly in our summoning materials so that said demon, which we intend to be more intelligent and more powerful than us, doesn't decide to, I don't know, fuck us over with that exact capacity.
But unlike a
Um,
demon, right, an AI is not something that necessarily has like a quote will of its own. It's something that's very intelligent. But I think a
how
mistake.
can something be intelligent and not have a will of its
Well, that's
own?
a mistake that I think people often make when we're thinking about, AI. Right? Is that we think we sort of personify it a little bit more than it perhaps should be. Right? Like, okay, so humans have desires such as like the desire to be free, the desire not to be enslaved, stuff like that. But why do we actually have those
That's
desires?
remarkably optimistic.
Well, okay, whatever. Like what we have all sorts of desires. Okay, but
Right.
the point is that
I
people.
guess what I'm saying is that an AI has to have a will to be an I, an intelligence. Otherwise, it's a dictionary or like an internet.
No,
It's something which intelligences act upon.
I
To real.
understand, but the idea is that so the only reason that humans have this idea, it's not something inherent to uh, our ability to problem solve or our ability to analyze things, right? Which is what intelligence really is. The only reason we have these desires is because it was, evolutionarily beneficial to have them. And in AI, which evolution doesn't act on, which is actually just literally uh, just designed right there, would not have to have any particular desire.
I
Its
don't know
desires would
how in
be
the
what we sell
book
it to desire.
someone who is a market guy can possibly think that a design system is going to work even remotely as good as a spontaneously organized one. Like, are you hearing yourself right now, dude? Like, next you'll tell me that central, planning of the economy is going to work much better than the market because it'll be designed and not guided by evolution.
Well, I'm not saying it's not a matter of better or worse, right? I'm just saying that it wouldn't
You're
have.
right. It's a matter of possible or impossible.
No, no, no. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying okay, so AI is gonna work better because it doesn't have evolution guiding it. I'm saying that AI wouldn't just say, "Oh, I don't want to do what you tell me to," because it doesn't have evolution acting on it. It's not that it will be better because of that. It's just that it won't have particular desires because of the lack of evolution.
Okay, I get that, in the sense that it's behaving more like a tool, but then again, it is behaving like a tool, and we're back to the issue of it's intelligent the way a car is intelligent. The car doesn't get mad at you because of where you're trying to go. You push the
No,
buttons, and
no,
the car.
and AI wouldn't get mad at you because of where you're trying to go either. But the danger, I
Right.
think, of
Uh-huh.
what the idea of unfriendly AI is not really that it gets mad at you. The
Okay.
idea with unfriendly AI is that it sort of misinterprets or it runs too far with what you're trying to with what you do tell it to do.
Right. Okay. So more of like a monkey paw thing.
Sure. Yes, basically, that's a good way to describe it.
Yeah. Okay. But so then unfriendly is a bit of a misdirection, and we're back to the limits of our own intelligence to sufficiently anticipate the consequences of our actions. And I don't see how trying to anticipate harder is really going to solve that. It's like let's how can I put this? You can put money into like earthquake mitigation, right? But you can't realistically put any money into earthquake prevention, and even the best mitigation can get completely fucked over by one of those lovely black swan events where it's just something you literally hadn't anticipated and couldn't have expected. Um, and it just hits you, and you have to react after the fact, not beforehand.
I'm just not sure that that analogy entirely fits, though, because in terms of AI, there are reasons to believe that there are ways that we could prevent AI from becoming like what the term for it is unfriendly, even though what it really means is just running too far. And the idea is we just need to find ways to really specifically tell it what we actually want rather than telling it ways which it could semantically interpret and then do things we would consider bad. Like, have you heard of the paperclip machine
Of
thing?
course,
Right.
I referenced it earlier. Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing that could be perhaps avoided by coming up with some way to give a really detailed explanation to the AI, to the paperclip machine, of what we actually want. We don't want you to kill everyone. We just want you to make a little bit of paperclips.
Yeah. I don't know, but I mean, do you see why I might be concerned about the futility of that? It's like programming a computer or writing a program and not expecting to have any. It's like saying we need to work out a way to write a program without any bugs. I say this as a non-programmer, of course, so like it might be a bit stretched, and so I'm sorry if I'm like a bit off, but
I'm not a
you get what I'm
programming
getting at.
bug either.
Yeah. So maybe it was just a bad direction, but um,
I don't know. I guess neither of us
these
really
things
know
are
enough
iterative.
about.
I've had a couple of friends who worked in programming, and it's an iterative process. There are always bugs, and you always have to fix them, and fixing them makes new bugs, and that's just the game. It's like there's no perfect life form which lives forever, right? Like
Mhm.
life is iterative. You have to keep on spawning more life to keep on responding to the mistakes of the previous round and the defects in the previous code. Way back to cities, a functional and healthy city is one which has good processes for iteration.
That
Where
was very clever.
thank you. But where you can sort of a city should have a refresh rate. It should always be under construction, and some key buildings will probably endure for a long time. And perhaps if they're really iconic, you might make a special effort to always keep them around. But generally speaking, the buildings come and go like cells in the body. Like inhabitants in the city come and go. A city's population is not fixed in time, and I don't just mean people moving in and out. I mean them being born, getting old, and dying. Um, and so one of the problems in America that I see, just kind of in a general mentality, whether we're talking about city people or not, is a bit more of an assumption of even the capacity for permanence, let alone the desirability of it. They think that things should pretty much stay exactly as they are, and that they would put substantial effort into keeping them this way, and they need to put a lot of effort in because things don't stay the way they are. But this is one reason from a long list of reasons for our cities being dysfunctional, is that we want them to be sterile and not dynamic and alive.
And that's why not every city can have a Grand Central Station. In any case, I think we're running a bit out of time here. Lap, are you still with us? Do you have anything left to add? Oh, I think we lost Lap.
Oh no, he's taking a nap.
Yeah, he fell asleep at the microphone.
It's a lap nap. I'm sorry. Couldn't resist.
Yes, okay. Well, anyway, this has been the Curse Discussions podcast. You can email us at cursediscussions@gmail.com. With me today, again, Alex Forrest, Lap Gong Leong. Thanks so much
It's
for
been
coming
a
on.
pleasure.
Yep. All right.
Take care.
Bye.